I was in my 20s. Not going to give you too many ages, dates. But I was in my 20s. I'm not in my 20s anymore. And yeah, I had no experience in film at all. And I just saw everything around me and I was like, wow, this is amazing. And then I just started doing things. Like I'm good at like picking up and doing things, right? I'm like, hey, like why isn't this being done this way, right? And I just said, okay, well if it's not being done, I'll just do it, right? I'm not employed, but I'll just do it because I want to do it, right? So I started doing things like that, and I snuck in. He never asked me to work for him. I just snuck in. um, um, and then I made friends with his writer, and then I started hanging out with him to understand like how scripts are written, made, developed, right? And then I made friends with his editor, and then I would go and sit in the edit. His editor would edit from like late afternoon into the night. So I would do like daytime with like learning with my uncle, whatever, this and that, following him around. He didn't want me around, but I would follow him around. And then at night I would go and sneak into the edit and sit with the editor. And that's when I learned how movies are made, because movies are really made in the edit, yeah, and I did that for months and I learned. And then
did you like it? Did you like that whole process where, because editing can be very,
yeah.
But usually editors are always like so like agitated and they're like, I've edited for like 10 hours and they're always like, I mean it's pretty lengthy, like it's a lengthy process, right? But you enjoyed the whole thing, like the studio.
I did. I like the idea of everything coming together, right? And let's talk about editor for 1 second. I've seen editors in India and I've seen them in the US, right? And it's really interesting. The stereotype of the editor being agitated and overworked is true in India. It's true in certain cases here, but the editors I know here aren't so like agitated because they're treated better. If you treat the editor better, if you treat them like a filmmaker, and you don't put insane deadlines on them, right? Like say, okay, edit this much of the film by next week. That's a very doable project. That editor can work 10 hours a day, go see his family at night, her family at night, like, and get it done in a reasonable amount of time, and it'll be good. If you give them the whole movie to do, and have unreasonable like expectations, then obviously they're going to be overworked. And then the second you become overworked, the work starts to suffer, and that's when you have bad movies, right? Like,
yeah, you don't want to be creative. You're like just doing your job, and you just,
Yeah. And it's the same thing. It's like I'm not trying to like shit on Bollywood, but they should really start learning and to treat people better. If you treat people better, you have a better movie. It's so simple, whether it's your actor, like a lot of what I experience on set as an actor in India is like your star, like, Katrina or Deepika or like, Imran, I worked with Imran, very nice guy. But like they get treated in a very particular way, right? And then everyone else, like supporting actors, are like, "Tum hato yaar." Like, go sit over there. We'll figure you out. When it's like, if you treat people with human respect, right, they will perform better, and you will have a better movie. It's so simple, I wish India would figure this out.
That's the only reason I think. This is the only thing I always kind of ask myself. For last 10-15 years I've been working here, and we always complain like, why can we not come up with good productions? Why aren't we coming up with good movies, good dramas, or anything, and why are we always so frustrated? I always say like, I don't know how to say this in English. It's barkat, like like blessing.
Yeah.
I always say like, there's no barkat in our work, man. What is wrong? Like there are great actors, but we don't know how to execute it. There's great stories, but we can't. And then I always try to think like how we actually treat people. As you just said, editors, assistant directors, or even new actors, or even cinematographers, even here, like, only the director is the boss, and, and of course his special actress and actor, and that's it. And and you know, I think there's like lack of barakat, and I'm always like, wow, there's nothing, you know, I'm always like kuch nahi hoga, yeah, is industry ka, you know,
Yeah,
there's no
yeah,
future. So so you're
yeah.
right, you know, the least we can do is, I mean, it's such a small basic thing, but just imagine, like, if I'm being nice and polite to my editor, I mean, is
Mhm.
this a lot that he's asking for? But you wouldn't believe how, I mean, I think I have to edit these parts from my episode.
No, no, keep it. This is the good stuff. This is what I would want to watch, like truth, honesty. But like it goes back to like you said something. You said kuch nahi ho sakta. Like I don't think that's true. I think change will happen, and it's already starting to happen with the younger filmmakers, right? People like you and me, right? What is that quote? Be the change you want to see in the world. Who is that? Is that Gandhi? I don't know. Is it Gandhi?
I think
Uh,
so.
is it okay? Um, so like that's all it is. Like the second you or I get the power to make something, right? Which I have. Like I helped produce something, a year or so ago. The first thing we did was we agreed, the director and I, like that we're going to treat people in a very particular way. Like, it's more of a flat surface. What are you feeling? What do you need? Treat people nicely, and you have a better product. And that's all it takes. Like you're the creator of the show that I'm on right now. You have the power to treat whoever, however you want, right? And that'll make the difference. And it's like you start that like ripple in the pond or lake or whatever, right? And that ripple, now as you treat five other people in, are you in Dhaka?
Yeah, I'm in Dhaka. Yeah,
If you treat 5 or 10 other people in Dhaka that way, they might be like, oh shit, wait, wait, things can work this way. I didn't know things could work this way. And then they start treating the other people around them nicely, right? And then you have a better product, and then that ripple turns into a wave, right? And then you have change.
absolutely. So yeah, coming back to that point. So from there, in Mumbai, as you said, you know, in the editing panel, you like the whole process of, you know, making films. So even at that point, it didn't like cross your mind that, okay, what is it that I want to do? I want to direct, I want to make films, or do I want to write, or do I want to act? Like, which one did attract you the most?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. Like, this is a tough question. Um, it's Let me think for a second as the helicopter is going by. Um, so no, I think so far we've highlighted, some of my accomplishments, right? We should talk about my failures too, right? We all have failures. I've had massive failures, and that's a part of the process. I think the key is to not being afraid to fail. You have to fail over and over and over, right, to succeed. And you brought up, I think, some of my biggest failures. I didn't know what I wanted to do, um, and I was dumb enough to listen to other people instead of listening to my own instinct, right? Um, so I started ADing, right? And that was great. And I would say I didn't really know I am one of those people that figures things out along the way. So I started ADing because I had privilege. I had some family members in entertainment, so I started doing it under them. Um, and after that, a weird thing happened. Like I was thinking about acting. I did like a quick acting course at like a local Bombay acting institute, which, by the way, don't do it. Waste, complete waste.
You were just telling
You're
me
better off.
yesterday not to do this course in LA and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of making sure that people that want to be actors follow a path that's going to help them and not waste their money, right? Yeah, yeah. I'm a big fan of that because I've made mistakes and I want to share those mistakes so then other people don't make them, right? Um, so back to your question, yeah, it just so happened, right? Like, I was doing that acting course, and I had danced in college on stage, but I wasn't really dancing for years or anything like that. Just so happened, someone I knew was making a commercial where they needed someone to dance as the main guy, right? Um, and they fired uh, the main actor the night before the shoot. I was going to AD on that. And then at like midnight before the shoot, they were like, "Okay, you're going to be shooting tomorrow, so be prepared." And I was like, "Oh shit, okay." And I just did it. It was there's no plan of that. It just happened. Now, once that commercial went on air, people were like, "Who's that?" Right? And then casting people started calling me, and then I did like 10 more commercials. And I didn't want to keep doing commercial. Back then, the industry is very like how you're presented is very important, right? Um, so I didn't. Oh, this was like 2000, like 8, 9, a decade ago, right? So yeah, I was doing this, and then I have an aunt who's an actress there, and she said, "Look, if you're going to do this stuff, you might as well take it seriously." And she said, "Filmmaking is one thing. If you want to learn how to act, you do theater." So I went and started doing theater workshops. I joined a group in Bombay. I did a couple of plays, and that was the best learning of all time. So yeah, I gave a year of my life to doing that stuff, maybe more than a year. And I would still like find time to audition and do that, but my focus was doing theater. And then after that, is just interesting how things work. You invest time and energy into becoming a better artist, and then like an audition came up, where someone was like, "Hey, really like you. You don't necessarily fit into things." That's always my problem, by the way. I don't fit into things. Like, um, I remember when I did a movie for Karan Johar's production company called Dharma. Did a movie called I Hate Love Stories, right? Went to audition for that. They liked it. They called me again to audition, um, and I got cast as like, like the lead's Imran's like best friend type person, right? And it was a pretty big part, like 20 days of shooting overseas in New Zealand. But once the big boss saw, they did test shoots, right? Like they do test shoots of you costumes, you next to each other. So they did like pictures of me and Imran together, right? Like whatever. Apparently, um, when the big boss saw that, he said, "No, we can't put Aseem in that part." And the I remember the casting assistant Cameron told me, he said, "Look, you're not going to play that role anymore. We want you to play a different role, which is a little bit smaller, whatever, but you still get to be a part of this big movie, whatever." And I was like, I don't know if I want to do that, right? I ended up saying yes, but it was really interesting. He said, Karan Johar said, "Aseem is not quite a character and not quite a leading man." So I've always been like stuck in the middle. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't care what he thinks. Fuck him. I don't care what any of these people think, right? I have no fear. I have no fear of anyone, right? Like, you do good work, you will succeed, right? So yeah, like I've never fit into these brackets. Like I've never like I don't fit like the supporting, like what they used to call a sidey guy, but that's changed now. Like now they're writing good supporting characters. I don't fit the characters I've always wanted to play were like, like they did a version of Othello, Omkara. There's an amazing supporting character in that. He played. Oh, well, Saf is a lead, right? But there's a yeah. Ajay played Othello, right? Saf played Iago, right? And there's another supporting character that I thought was really interesting, but they said you don't look like those characters. There's been a lot of characters I wanted to play. Even here, like I auditioned for a movie called Lion, for the for the main lead, and I like did well in the auditions. And they said you just don't look like someone that would have come up from the slums, like
You don't have that.
I don't know what that means. It's so stupid. Like